into your eyes makes my heart come alive. Suddenly brought to life when I met you. One, two, three, jump! This is real love. This is real love. This is real love. This is real love. Oh. Holding my heart to the very end. Jesus, I'm found in your freedom. just wanna be where you are. Where you are. I just wanna be where you are. And after all this time, with you by my side, I can't imagine what it'd be like on my own. I've made up my heart, this love is all I've got, and you're the only one I know worth living for. A sweet elevation of praises. There's no one I love more than you. I never knew a love like this before, the kind of life that I cannot find on my own. I've seen the world, but I have never been so sure that I want your heart. God, I just wanna be where you are. Where you are. I just wanna be where you are. Where you are. I just wanna be where you are.
I got a homesick heart, but a long ways left to go. I've been doing my part, but I ain't got much to show. So I'm asking you to show me some forgiveness. It's all for you in my pursuit of happiness. Chasing that life, moving on, cause I had to prove there ain't no life worth doing what I did to you. So I'm asking you to show me some forgiveness. It's all for you in my pursuit of happiness. I've got dreams that keep me up in the dead of night, telling me I wasn't made for the simple life. There's a lot I see, but it's far in the distance. I'm asking you to show me some forgiveness. It's all for you in my pursuit of happiness. I've been working all night, maybe you could help me to believe this song ain't nothing if the song can't set you free. So I'm asking you to show me some forgiveness. It's all for you in my pursuit of happiness. I've got dreams that keep me up in the dead of night, telling me I wasn't made for the simple life. There's a lot I see, but it's far in the distance. I'm asking you to show me some forgiveness. It's all for you in my pursuit of happiness. Sometimes you leave the ones you love, but if it's love, they won't give up, cause they know a war's raging, and you gotta choose. These days are tough, these days are long, sometimes it's hard to carry on, but I hear a voice singing, and I know it's true. I've got dreams that keep me up in the dead of night, telling me I wasn't made for the simple life. There's a lot I see, but it's far in the distance. I'm asking you to show me some forgiveness. It's all for you in my pursuit of happiness. Happiness, happiness.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Discovery Church. We are super stoked that you're here. This in front of me is a piano. and I don't know how to play it really all that much. But we needed a piano player, so here I am. Will you guys stand with us, and we're going to worship the Lord together. Man of sorrows, what a name for the Son of God who came, ruin sinners to reclaim. Hallelujah, what a Savior. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Mighty breath of God, come move upon this place. Blow, mighty breath of God, come move in power and grace. Streams of mercy falling down, light of heaven all around. let your wind blow, let your fire fall. I hear the Savior say, thy strength indeed is small. Child of weakness, watch and pray. Find in me thine all in all. Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. Jesus died, my soul to save. My lips shall still repeat, Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. Had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. head that once was crowned with thorns is crowned with glory now. The Savior nailed to wash our feet. Now at His feet we bow. The one who wore our sin and shame, now robed in majesty, the radiance of perfect love now shines for all to see. Your name is victory. In our praise we'll rise to Christ our King. Your name is victory. Our praise will rise to Christ our King. The fear that held us now gives way to Him who is our peace. His final breath upon the cross is now alive in me. Your name is victory. Our praise will rise to Christ our King. Your name is victory. Our praise will rise to Christ our King. By your Spirit I will rise from the ashes of defeat. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. In your name I come alive to declare your victory. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. By your Spirit I will rise from the ashes of defeat. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. In your name I come alive to declare your victory. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. By your Spirit I will rise from the ashes of defeat. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. In your name I come alive to declare your victory. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. Our God is the tomb that soldiers watched in vain was borrowed for 3 days. His body there would not remain. Our God has robbed the grave. Our God has robbed the grave. His body there would not remain. Our God has robbed the grave. Yes, our God has robbed the grave. God, we thank you for this time where we can be with you. We can sing these songs to you. We can hear about you. In your name we pray. Amen. You guys can have a seat.
There's a hole, there's a black mark on her soul. In her hands is my heart, and she won't let go till it's scarred. Try to breathe, but I can't, 'cause the air she feeds me is damned. Got a touch like a thorn, 'cause the girl she's hiding horns. She got blood cold as ice and a heart made of stone, but she keeps me alive. She's the beast in my bones. She got two little horns and they give me a little bit.
Men's Retreat, Men's Retreat. I watched that video and I think a whole lot of man hugging. Let's go. I love that video. I think it's awesome. But I think the Latin at the bottom, I think it means a whole lot of man hugging. Let's go. Actually, I got the meaning last night. It means to be ready for peace, we have to prepare for war. Prepare for war. And I'm excited about Men's Retreat. I've been to 5 Men's Retreats myself, and every single one, I take away something powerful. This last one that I was at, Greg started talking, and one of the things that he said just really cut me deep. He said, the battles are won and lost behind the scenes, not in front of people. How are we preparing? And I just thought about how I have tried to prove myself, to my parents, to people in my life. How often do I just try to prove who I am? And then Greg said this. He said, one of the most dangerous things in this world is an invalidated man with something to prove. And I just sat in that, and how many people have I wounded around me to prove myself, to make myself feel and look better by hurting other people around me? And I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like that. So Men's Retreat has been incredibly powerful to me, something that you want to be at. Don't go to Men's Retreat if you are expecting a whole bunch of cocky dudes who think they're God's gift to come up and hang out, be up there. Don't come thinking you have to bury your deepest, darkest. No, come up to Men's Retreat if you need a rest, if you need to relax. Come up to Men's Retreat if you just want to hang out with some dudes for a while. Come up to Men's Retreat if you just want to walk into what it means to be a man walking with God a little bit more in this world. I guarantee you it's worth it, and I hope to see you up there. Well, I'm stoked about today. I'm stoked that you are with us, whether you are new or you've been here for a long time or you're joining us online. Special welcome to all of you. So glad that you are with us. My name is Jason, but I like to go by Jay. I'm an associate pastor here at Discovery, and I love to get to be here. This is my first 4-service weekend that I've been able to speak at. And so last night I spoke, and that was weird, and I'm like, okay, 2, I'm done, right? 2 is what I'm used to. I'm done. I don't have to speak anymore, but here I am. Okay, and I was supposed to speak a couple times, but John Eldridge called and said, "Hey, do you want me to speak?" And so it was like Jason or John, and so they went with John. So this is the first one, and I get it. I really liked when John was here; it was good. But this is my first one, and I'm excited about it. Here's what you need to know. What I have already felt and experienced for the past 4 years that I've been here is we need a safe place to be real and bring the things that are going on in our lives. Even if we never share them with people that are here or in this place, this is that safe place for whatever you've gone through. And the truth is, I've made mistakes. I've messed up. I'm not proud of all the things that I've done or said or been. And this is a place for you to bring all of that and start to find some hope. Because the reality is that we all have parts of our story that we wish we could erase, delete, do over, or maybe go back and change. And if any of that sounds like you, me too. Me too. And one of those things, okay, it's more embarrassing than a major mistake that I have in my past, is when I was a junior in high school. And we all made mistakes. We all would like to redo. Well, none of us would want to go back to high school. But we, amen, amen, and I'm not going back, right? But one of those things that I'm most embarrassed of, junior year, I had just been broken up with, and man, I thought this was the one, you know, like it's that really serious relationship, and you're in love, and she's in love, and it's just going great, and, you know, just 6 months in, you know you're going to spend the rest, you know what I'm talking about? You know, all right, so she breaks up with me, and the veil was torn, and it's awful, and my life is over, okay, and I'm sitting in that depression. Around the same time, the movie The Passion of the Christ came out, okay, so 14 years ago, Passion of the Christ came out, and I know what you're asking. What do these two things have to do with each other? Oh, I'm about to tell you, and it's awful. Okay, and so I'm kind of on the rebound. I'm looking for a new girl. My heart is broken. I want to date some new girl. My mom calls, and she says, hey, tonight we're going to go see a family movie. Invite whatever friends that you want to come with. She didn't tell us what movie we were going to see. And so I say, ding, free date, okay? We won't sit with mom and dad. We'll be away from my little sister. It'll be great. Free date. We're going to go see a movie. It'll be awesome. I don't have to pay for it. Great. So I call up this girl. And guess what the surprise movie that we were going to go see was? The Passion of the Christ. I had no warning for what we were about to see and what we were about to be exposed to and what was about to happen. It was so awful and embarrassing. But I was going to make the most of it. I was determined. Okay, I was on the rebound. You know what I mean? And so the beginning of the movie is real nice, and Jesus is doing miracles, and people are laughing, and so I make my move, okay? I was going to capitalize on this free date. So I grab her hand. We're holding hands. I snuggle up real close, and then bam, blood and beating and the cross, and I'm getting sick to my stomach, and I'm like looking for buckets around me, and I'm crying like a little baby, and I'm thinking, why am I still holding this girl's hand right next to me? Like, that is exactly what I was living. I just could not wait for the date to be over. I couldn't wait for the night to be over, and she never talked to me again after that. And I don't blame her, right? We did not end up dating for a long, long time because it was weird and it was crazy. It was awkward. I couldn't wait for it to be over. But more than that, I couldn't wait for the movie to be over. Okay, I wasn't warned for what I was about to be seeing or hearing or exposed to. I could not wait for the cross to be over, what was going on in him. I wish that she wasn't there so I could have been going through it myself, but I couldn't wait for it to be over. And as I think about the cross and what we think about when we think of who Jesus is and what he went through for each of us, I think that's how a lot of us see it. And every year, it's been 14 years. For the past 10 years, I have said, I'm going to watch the movie. And I have not watched it because I can't bring myself to watch it because it's too much for us. And so I think a lot of us sitting in this room, maybe some of us see the cross and we're like, I don't really know what it means. It doesn't fully make sense to me, so I don't want to watch it or be exposed to it. Some of us say, I don't like the fact that I needed somebody, or I still need somebody to cover all the mistakes and everything that I've done in my life. I don't want to rely on anybody, so I don't want to think about the cross. Some of us have made it too big. Too big. The cross is too big, and the only way we can approach or think about the cross, or the only reason why we would turn to the cross, is if we've done something big enough to need it. We can't avoid it. We have to talk about it. And so we're going to dive into it today. And we're in this series called Love Recovers. Okay, and there's some cool little posters out there, and each week a different letter is being revealed. And so the first week was R, stands for resilient. Love is resilient. The second week is conquers. Love conquers. This week is vindicates. V, love recovers. Love vindicates. It makes right all of our wrongs, everything from our past, everything that has gone on in our world, everything that we would be guilty of, any shame or blame. It takes care of it and completely vindicates us. But unlike what my mom did to me when she took me to a movie and I have this girl and she didn't give me any warning about what I was about to see, I'm giving you a warning right now. Today is not going to be a PG day. It's not going to be a PG-13 day. It's going to be a rated R day. I'm not going to spare you the details because the Bible does not clean itself up, and we're going to walk into it today. And so I really encourage you, if you have kids with you, we have an amazing kids ministry, 0 to 4th grade out there. We have an amazing 5th and 6th grade ministry. I don't know that I would say this with our 5th and 6th graders. And so I encourage you, if you brought anybody that you do not want to have some hard conversations or expose them to go out at this time. So that's your warning. We're going to pick up right where Greg left off last week, right where Greg left off. And so Jesus has lived 30 years of his life just normal, just like you and me. He works a job, he hones a craft, becomes a carpenter. Everything's great. Then he has 3 years of ministry, and it's all good, and it's amazing. And then he finally is called to do what it is that he came to do, to help us recover from the devastation of our sin. That's what he's called to do. And so last week, Greg shared that one of his closest friends betrays him. and he gets arrested, and he gets brought for unjust, unfair trials. And they were done in the morning. They weren't supposed to be done then. All that stuff that he talked about, unjust, unfair trials, and now he's found actually not guilty. And that's where we pick up and we resume the story. If you don't have a Bible, we'd love to give you one. I have passages from all four Gospels because we got to look at different aspects of this story today. So the easiest way to follow along is probably through our app or just following along on screen. We want you to be able to do that. So John 19, verse 1 says this. Then Pilate took Jesus and had him flogged. The soldiers twisted together a crown of thorns and put it on his head. They clothed him in a purple robe and went up to him again and again, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews." And they slapped him in the face. Once more, Pilate came out and said to the Jews gathered here, "Look, I am bringing him out to you to let you know that I find no basis for a charge against him." And when Jesus came out wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe, Pilate said to them, "Here is your man." And as soon as the chief of priests and their officials saw him, they shouted, "Crucify. Crucify." It took no time at all. He came out and he said, "Here's your man," and crucify. Crucify. This is what they wanted. And I don't know if you catch that in the middle of the passage. It says, "He is an innocent man. I find no charge against him." And they did not care. They said, "We want him beaten. We want him broken. We want him dead. We don't care that he's innocent. This is what we want." And Pilate in this story, there's too much Me Too for Pilate in this story because I can relate to Pilate, and I hate to admit that because here he is. This was the 5th of 6 times that Jesus is brought before a governing board, and each time they say, "We find no charge against him. We can't convict him. He doesn't deserve death." He comes out and says, "This is an innocent man." And Pilate, sees all of these people shouting, "Crucify." He knows what is right, and still he goes with what is wrong because that's what everybody is yelling at him, telling him to do. And I have to admit, I work with students. I know what peer pressure looks like. I know what it looks like still in my life. And yes, we grow and we develop and we understand what peer pressure is. We figure out how to face it. But peer pressure is still a thing in my life. I go into a meeting and I know what we should choose or what we should act, and I don't say anything because I don't want people to think less of me because everybody's made a decision, and I'm not going to have the popular vote, but I think it might be the right one. So I stay silent. Okay, in little ways, I know what this looks like. There's too much Me Too in Pilate, and Pilate goes with what everybody has said, even though he knows he's innocent, and says, "We are going to crucify him." But not just are we going to hang him on a cross, no. This is going to be a broken, a beaten, and a bloody path that he pays for us. Why? Because love endures brutality and humiliation. Love endures brutality and humiliation. That's exactly what he did for us. In his love, he took a brutal beating, then allowed himself to be humiliated. Okay, humiliated. After they had beaten him, he puts on a purple robe and they parade him around. "This is your king. This is your king." And we get what he did. We get the brutality. We can see the humiliation of how love endures that for us. And we can even understand it in our own lives, even at a young age. My wife and I have been married for just over 5 years, like 5.5 years or something like that. If she was here, she'd yell at me and she'd tell me exactly how long it's been. But we've been married for about 5.5 years, and we've been walking into our stories. And Kirsten has started talking to me about, a long time ago actually, about this story that happened when she was 6 years old. 6 years old, and she loved her mom, as a lot of little girls do, and so she wanted to do something special for her. Her mom said, "Hey, you need to play in the yard, and you can't leave." And her birthday was coming around the corner, and so she left. She did what she wasn't supposed to do. She went to a friend's house, and she had already had it planned to make her something special. And an hour goes by, and she's not there, and Mom starts to get angry. And so she's like, where's Kirsten? Where is this girl? And she comes back, and she gets grounded. And she gets told, "This is not where you're supposed to be." She was in the wrong, right? And she rightly gets punished, and she's grounded. But what she didn't tell her is that she spent all that time working on a surprise gift for her mom. And so this little 6-year-old girl holds on to, didn't ask for permission because she wanted to surprise Mom, takes the punishment for this thing. And a month later, it's Mom's birthday. And Mom opens up the gift and she's like, "How did you have time to make this?" "Well, remember that day that you grounded me and that I got in really, really big trouble? Well, I went over to so-and-so's house and I made this." And she was just like, "Oh, How amazing, how beautiful. Now, there's nothing brutal about that story, okay? And her mom was in the right, okay? Kirsten shouldn't have left the yard, but her love for her mom, even at a young age, didn't want to tell her what she was doing because she wanted it to be a surprise. And how many times have we not told because we've loved somebody, or we didn't want to get somebody in trouble because we loved them so much, and so we endured little pieces, small pieces of brutality, or allowed ourselves to be humiliated because we love it. I see it in my marriage all the time, okay? But not from me, but how Kirsten endures me, sometimes humiliating her even by telling stories. She's a pretty private person. She doesn't love all the time when we tell stories, but we do that, okay? Why? Because love endures. It's easier to see as adults. Okay, we watch the stories, or we watch the videos, hear the stories of people at 9/11 who shoot up the stairs in order to save somebody, or the school shootings where teachers or fellow teenagers jump in the way of bullets, or we see it with our active duty or people who have served in the military, who have literally been the person who jumped in front of the bullet to save somebody else, or been the recipient of that, or have seen somebody do that. We have heroes in our story who have endured brutality. They become heroes of us. We have moments, we have glimpses where we can see what it means for somebody to take bullets, to take shots for us. And if I were to ask you, what are one or two moments like that, I'm sure you could think of a hero from your story. But even those, as amazing and as powerful as those are glimpses, just glimpses into who Jesus is, who he was for us on his path to the cross. And it's just a simple verse. It's in 3 Gospels. It's the first verse that I read. They took Jesus and they had him flogged. And what they would have done with that simple verse, another verse says that he was scourged. What they would have done is a Roman soldier would have looked at the criminal, he would have gone to a table, and he would have chosen the instrument similar to this one. This is something that I made a few years ago. He would have grabbed a cat o' nine tails, or a flagrum, or a flagellum. And these instruments were designed to inflict massive amounts of pain, to embarrass people. And they had pieces of rock or bronze that were woven into the whip. They had shards of glass that were simply meant to slice through skin and tendon and all that stuff. They had chicken bone. They had curved pieces of metal that were designed to rip into skin, into muscle, into flesh, and to pull it from the bone, and parts of his bone would be exposed. And they would take whoever the criminal was, and they would bend him over so they had a clear and easy view of his back. And from the base of his neck to his tailbone, sometimes they would miss and get leg or maybe face. 39. It would grab and it would tear, much like it probably just tore my pants. 39. Historians and Bible scholars would agree that he took 39 lashes before he ever got to the cross. Before he ever was put on a cross, he took those lashes and that flogging for us on top of 3 other times. And then it says in this passage he was slapped, but the humiliation wasn't over. No, because they put a purple robe on him and they said, "This is your king." And they took a vine, a thick vine, and they said that the commentaries that I was reading, they said that each of the thorns would have been between 2 and 4 inches long, and he had a long day ahead of him. So they would have wrapped it around his head. They would have drove it through his scalp and into his skull, so that as he carried his cross for the remainder of the day, that crown would sit on his head and not go anywhere. Why? Why am I telling all this? This is brutal. This is uncomfortable. Why do we need to talk about this in church? Why? This is what Jesus endured for us. Because love endures brutality and humiliation. So Pilate took him back privately after this happened. He was in disbelief. And again, he couldn't find any basis. He couldn't find any basis to charge him. In John 19, verse 12, it says that from then on he tried to do everything that he could to prove that Jesus was innocent. He even had an innocent man to try to, or a very guilty man, Barabbas, who had committed all these wrongs and had killed people. He said, you have a tradition to release one person once a year. Will you release this innocent man or this murderer? No, we want the murderer. Let him go. Crucify Jesus. We know he's innocent. He doesn't deserve it. Crucify him. And so that's where they go. Mark chapter 15, verse 20 says, and when they had mocked him, they took off the purple robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him out to crucify him. And he's broken and he's beaten and his muscles have been torn in his back. And now he has a half-mile journey up a hill that he can't make on his own. And so, verse 21, a certain man from Cyrene, Simon, the father of Alexander and Rufus, was passing by on his way in from the country, and they forced him to carry the cross. He had 2 boys, Alexander and Rufus. We don't know if his boys were with him, but imagine if his boys were with him in this moment. And this is another innocent man who is brought into the journey that is a part of what has saved and covered all of our sins. What are those boys thinking? That's my dad. That's my dad. Why is he carrying somebody else's cross? What would they have been feeling for Jesus? They didn't know anything about him. They just thought he's this murderer. They must have hated this man Jesus, who was responsible for their dad being the one who was carrying now his cross. And they brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull, and they offered him mixed wine and myrrh, but he did not take it. And the commentaries would say that this was like an anesthetic. It was a powerful drink that was supposed to be able to help him numb the pain of what he was about to go through after he had already endured all night what he endured. He didn't take it, and they crucified him. Dividing up his clothes, they cast lots to see what each would get. It was 9 a.m. when they crucified him. And the written notice on his charge against him read, the King of the Jews, further humiliated. This is your king? Look at him now. All that pain, those beatings, the scourging, now the journey up the hill. Jesus is crucified. He hangs on the cross and he endures more mockery, more pain. Why? Why? Because of love. Because he loves us that moment. And I just can't get my mind around it. Last week, Greg showed the map on the screen. And to the west of all of that map and the 3-mile journey and now the half-mile that he goes at the end of the road of the cross, to the left of that is just wilderness. Sorry, my left, it'd be over here for you. It's just wilderness. I don't understand how Jesus, knowing fully what he would have been going through, why when he was praying, he didn't run off. He knew what was coming his way. I don't get it. Why? Because he loved us that much. I don't understand when he's put on the cross and he didn't take the anesthetic and he's beaten and he's broken and he can't take any more, why he didn't call down 10,000 angels. I don't understand why his Father in heaven didn't call down 100,000 angels to have him taken off that cross and have everybody around him who was a part of it killed or punished or something. I do not get it except for love. Love, his love for us. There's this moment in the Passion of the Christ, and I'm not going to show it today. I think that would just be too much. We're going to talk about it. No, there's this moment where he's beaten and he's broken and he falls and he makes eye contact with his mom, and his mom flashes back to when she saw him as a little boy. And they wrote the movie so beautifully and so great. He looks at his mom and I can tell he's just done in this representation. He looks at his mom and he says, I love you this much. I'm going to get back up. He loved us that much. Why did he go through all that pain? Because of love. His pain was love, and love gives pain a purpose. Love gives pain a purpose. We can see the purpose of this pain. Now we can. Now we can see the purpose of all the pain that Jesus went through. But for us, it is hard to see in the moment the pain that we've gone through and how any of that has a purpose. How any of the pain that we've been through has a purpose. If you were to take a snapshot from moments of my life, they do not make sense. And if you don't know this about me, my dad has bipolar and episodes of schizophrenia, and he has done things and said things to me that he can't take back, that he desperately wishes that he could, that I don't blame him for, but still it's a part of my story. I can't look back on any of those moments when we're walking through episodes and realize, what's the point of all this? What's the purpose of this pain? Jesus, why don't you take this away from him? I can't make sense of the questions that he would ask me, like, are you gay? And I would struggle with that. am I? I can't make sense of the times when I graduated high school and reacting to all that pain. I became a man that I'm not proud of and that I don't want to look back on. I don't like looking back on. I can't explain all the pain in that. I can't explain the pain after I graduated college and I applied for 47 different jobs and I got nothing. I can't explain the pain of that for months. I can't explain the pain that Greg put his family through. And I'm talking about our senior pastor. If you don't know his story, you can go out the doors after this. I'm going to talk about it. It's going to be weird. But he had an affair, and he blew his family up. I can't explain that pain, and I know that he can't either. And I know that he hates to talk about it, and I hate to talk about our pain. I can't explain that pain. Why? Why are we allowed to go through that? There's a verse from 2 Corinthians. Somebody gave it to me last night. It says, it says that the comfort that we receive in our pain, God wants to use. And whatever he wants to allow us to go through, he wants us to use all of that pain. I cannot explain it except for the pain that he allows us to go through. It has humbled me, okay? I'm not saying that I'm the most humble person in this room. I know that I'm not. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying that I have been humbled because of what God has allowed me to go through. And it has given me the ability to see into other people's lives and into their story and not meet them with judgment, not meet them with condemnation, but meet with them with love and understanding and grace and just say, hey, it's okay what you're going through. Let's talk through it. I don't hate you. I don't think any less of you. What I have been through has allowed me to do that. What Greg has been through has helped so many people. What we have been through in this community and in our stories, when we process that, when we walk through that pain, that's what Captivating and Wild Heart is all about. It can have a purpose of helping us through whatever's going to come next, or helping somebody else in whatever's going to come next in their story. But in the moment, we do not get how our pain can have a purpose. And if you were to come in today and you hear the story of Jesus, it does not make sense. I don't get it. What is the purpose of his pain? Well, here's the purpose. Before he even breathes his last breath, we see the purpose of all of his pain as he's hanging on the cross. Luke 23:39 says, one of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and save us. But the other criminal rebuked him. Don't you fear God, he said, since you are under the same sentence. We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong. And then he said to Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus answered him, truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise. This guy, there's another passage where it says both of them on the cross, they mocked him. They mocked him together. And then later he's saying, he doesn't deserve this. He is an innocent man. He does not deserve this. And Jesus looks at him after this lifetime. Okay, it says that he's the thief on the cross. We don't fully know what he did. We don't know if he's killed anybody or all of the sins that he's had. We know that he's mocked Jesus after the cross. There's this turning point. And he says, I'm sorry. Will you just remember me? And in that one moment after a lifetime of hurting people and now deserving death and death on a cross, he turns and Jesus says, you will be with me in paradise. One moment, the purpose of all that pain was so that Jesus could heal everything. And there is more hope for us in that than we can even talk about today. But he's not done with hope for us. Because just a few minutes later, Matthew 27, from noon until 3 in the afternoon, darkness came over the land. And about 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice. He said, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? And when I look at the story, I just think, how? How could you have allowed Jesus to go through all this, God? And what sabachthani means in Greek is, thou hast left me. Thou hast left me. Jesus is saying, God, thou hast left me. There's a verse from a song. There's a verse from a song. It says, the Father turned his face away. And I've been sitting in this story all week. I've cried so many tears. This is a painful message to give, but I have scoured the Bible to see when does it say that the Father turned his face away. And I couldn't find that verse in the Bible. It's a really poetic line, but I couldn't find it. I don't think the Father turned his face away. I think he willingly watched. I can't imagine him not wincing as he receives the lashes or as he's put on the cross. But I don't think he turned his face away. But what I know to be true is that he did turn his grace away from Jesus. And that doesn't make sense to us. Why would he turn his grace away from Jesus? Why would he forsake him? Why would he have left him? Because that's what we all deserved. And that's what he bore for us. See, Jesus was willing to be forsaken so that we will never have to be. Jesus was willing to be forsaken so that we never have to be. And because of that, it is never too late. There is no such thing as too far. Jesus has paid a price that none of us could bear or pay. None of us could claim that we could earn for somebody to do what Jesus did for us on the cross, because he was willing to be forsaken so that we never have to be. But that doesn't make sense to us. It doesn't make sense that an innocent man would take that. We don't have any record of that. I was talking with Greg. He was a lawyer. He talked, actually this week he told me that he tried 60 cases and he only ever lost 2. So he was pretty good at what he did. And he has no recollection, and when I was studying, no recollection of an innocent man taking the sentence, the death sentence of a person who's been found guilty. I've been arrested 4 times. I'm not proud of that. I don't like that. I don't like bringing that up here. But I've been arrested 4 times, and it's not like I did it last week. It's not like Greg came and he bailed me out of the jail last week. No, it was a long time ago. It was 2 weeks ago. No, I'm just kidding. It was a long time ago. When I was 19, 20, I told you I'm not proud of the person that I became, that I turned into, and because of those 4 times I was arrested, and because of traffic violations, because speeding is a thing. Only when I was young, okay? Never anymore. Anyway, I've been in a courtroom 10 times. And I remember I was in this courtroom and I was hearing the charges against me, and I was like, I didn't do that, I didn't do that, I didn't do that. And then I heard the possible punishment for what I had done, the sentence. And it said 2 to 10 years in prison and a $100,000 fine. And if you're familiar with what happens in court or what different charges are, that's a felony charge. I could have had a felony charge against me. And the charge was terrorism. Terrorism. And I know you're looking at me, you're like, with the beard, maybe, kind of, like I could see it. But that's not what I was doing. I was being stupid. I was 19. We liked playing airsoft. Okay, I liked playing airsoft, and I had the stupid idea, let's play airsoft on top of an elementary school building. It's a long story, but 27 squad cars, 3 canine units, 2 helicopters, and a SWAT team later, I'm arrested, and I'm later told what I did and what had happened. And there was a death threat, or there was a bombing threat that had been made on that specific school before the school year was about to start. And so the whole neighborhood was put on watch, and they called us in. And I remember hearing about that and just feeling so guilty, so much shame. And then I hear these charges against me, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt anybody. We were just trying to have fun. I didn't mean it. And I just felt so much guilt and pain. Now imagine if the possible sentence against me was death. And imagine if I was still not guilty of it, but they charged me with it. Or maybe if I was guilty of it, and the judge says, will the defendant please rise? And the lawyer stands with me. He says, we find you guilty, and you deserve the death sentence. And so the sheriff comes over to me with cuffs in his hands to lead me around, to lead me away. And I put my hands out to cuff me, but he doesn't cuff me. He doesn't cuff the lawyer as much as I'd want him to. No. He cuffs the man standing right next to me, who I barely noticed was there, who was trying to love me and encourage me and say that I'm not alone the whole time. And he leads him off to take the punishment, to serve the death sentence that I deserved. We do not see that in real life. That does not make sense to us, but that is what Jesus was for each of us, an innocent man taking our place. And we don't like to remember the cross. We don't want to talk about this, and I get it. It's painful. It's gruesome, but we have to. And so every week, we like to provide a moment in this place. We like to provide a moment that can take us back to what we've been put through what Jesus went through for us. And we pass a metal tray with a little piece of bread and a little cup of juice, and we call it communion. And it's our opportunity to bring everything that's happened in our week, everything that's happened in our lives, everything that we're ashamed of, and leave it at the foot of the cross and remember what Jesus went through for each of us. And before we go any further, and we have a little bit more to talk about today, we need that in front of us. We need the symbol of that in front of us. And so we're going to take communion together. And here's what's going to happen. I explained the metal trays are going to pass. Ushers are going to bring them forward. I'm going to pray. But today I really I really want you to just take it and hold it. We do this sometimes, but really, because I have more things for us to go through, I really want you to take it and hold it. And allow yourself to sit and remember who Jesus was. And if this is weird to you, if this doesn't make sense, or if you're like weirded out by this whole thing, that's okay. Just let the cup pass. Nobody's going to kick you out or judge you or anything like that. That's fine. But if you're a believer in Jesus, or if you want to make today the first day that you believe in this Savior and say, I want you to take all of my guilt and shame. I could never repay you for this. Jesus, will you do that? Then take that bread and take that juice, and today hold it. Jesus, what you went through for us, how you loved us, does not make sense. What you did for us on the cross is hard to think about, it's hard to sit in, but it's so necessary. And so, Jesus, we give you this moment. Will you help us to give everything to you and to be grateful to you? And God, will you just help us to sit in the moment that was you dying on the cross and taking our sin, willing to be forsaken so that we would never have to be. Jesus, we sit with that as we take and hold communion.
Love's like a hurricane, I'm a tree, bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. All of a sudden, I'm unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory, and I realize just how beautiful you are and how great your affections are for me. And oh, how he loves us so. Oh, how he loves us. How he loves us so.
Again, I passed over something in the story pretty quickly. It's one line. It says, then he was crucified. And after he was beaten and broken and his muscles in his back had been lacerated, he carries his cross and Simon helps him. And they lay the cross down. And again, he's stripped naked. To be embarrassed, to be mocked, to be humiliated.
He is jealous for me. Love's like a hurricane, I am a tree, bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy.
They would have taken his hand and laid him down on top of the cross. And it says they would have pierced his hand. But the Greek for hand also includes the forearm and all the way to the elbow. And it was oftentimes that pierced through the hand, people who've been pierced through the hand, it would split. So they wouldn't have pierced him directly in the hand. They would have pierced him right through the wrist, through his 2 forearm bones, so that he could bear what he was about to go through for the next several hours.
When all of a sudden I'm unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory, I realize just how beautiful you are and how great your affections are for me.
They would have taken his second arm and they would have pulled him and stretched him until his shoulders popped out of socket. And they would have done the same with a nail, much like a railroad tie, through his forearm bones, the base of his wrist. And then they would have taken his bound legs, and they would have grabbed that same nail like a railroad tie, and they would have pierced him right above the ankle, through the heel.
Yeah, he loves us. Oh, he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves.
So many movies and pictures like to depict the cross 10, 15 feet in the air so that all could see, but that's not how it would have been. No, he would have been about 2 feet off the ground, about eye height for people to pass by him and look at him and mock him and spit on him and laugh at him, because the cross was not just a device that was meant to kill, it was meant to torture and further humiliate and break one's spirit.
We are his portion, he is our prize, drawn to redemption by the grace in his eyes. If his grace is an ocean, we're all sinking.
And it wouldn't have been the blood loss or the pain or the cross that killed him. No, as soon as his arms had been pulled out of socket, and then his wrists and his body, his lungs would have collapsed and he wouldn't have been able to breathe. And the only way that he would have been able to take a breath was to pull up on the fresh wounds that he had, to breathe in and be brought back down. And the pain would keep him from wanting to breathe, but then the asphyxiation and the possible suffocation would terrify him, and his body would naturally pull up on the wounds again.
Heaven meets earth like a sloppy wet kiss, and my heart turns violently inside of my chest. And I don't have time to maintain these regrets when I think about the way.
And for 6 hours, our Savior would have endured that for us because he loved us. He wouldn't have called down angels because he loved us, because he loved you and he loved me. We were what he was thinking about the whole time. And in a loud voice, at the end of his life, he cried out, "It is finished." And he didn't mean his life was finished or just that his time on this earth had expired. No, he meant that sin is finished. It is no more. There is no reason to feel guilty or shame or blame, because the cross has taken care of all of that. There is no such thing as too far. That is never too late. He wiped out our sin issue. sin, it is finished. But the story is far from over. Any man can die on a cross. Not any man can be raised to life again. And so Jesus, we remember the body that was beaten and broken for us as we take this bread together. We're going to take this cup in a second, but we've been doing something here at Discovery for the past couple years. After we take the juice, we've been breaking a cup. Why? Because of a symbol. Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "It is finished." And so we crack our cups with a defiant, with a joyous, "It is finished. Our sin has been covered." And so we take this cup together knowing that this juice symbolizes the blood that was shed on the cross for each of us. It's good. Jesus, thank you. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your endurance. Thank you that you endured brutality and humiliation, and that your pain had the ultimate purpose of loving and saving and caring for us. Jesus, thank you that there's so much hope for us. Thank you for being willing to be forsaken so that we would never have to be. Thank you for being our hope. Jesus, we remember and we love and we just live in how much you love us. And so, Jesus, come and comfort our hearts. Make sense of our pain. God, help us to turn to you. Jesus, we need you. Thank you. In your name, amen.
You guys stand with us as we sing one last song together. Like a hurricane, I am a tree bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. All of a sudden, I'm unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory. I realize just how beautiful you are and how great your affections are for me. Oh, how he loves us all. Oh, how he loves us. How he loves us. Redemption by the grace in his eyes. If his grace is an ocean we're all sinking. Heaven meets earth like a sloppy wet kiss, and my heart turns violent inside of my chest. I don't have time to maintain these regrets when I think back the world that he loves us. Oh, he loves us. Oh, he loves us. I just thank you for this place where we can come and we can hear about what it is that you've done for us. That we can celebrate the victory that you've won. We can sit and be still and be reminded of the price that was paid. In your name we pray. Amen. So how you doing? The cool part about this is that after Friday comes Sunday. If it wasn't for the crucifixion, we wouldn't have the resurrection. So when we walk out with the heaviness of what we heard, remember that Sunday is coming, that resurrection is coming, that 3 days pass and we achieve victory. Period. So if you have questions about what we do here in this place called Discovery, you go out those doors, turn left, there's a room called The Garage, full of people who would love to answer those questions. If you need prayer for anything you heard this morning, anything going on in your life, there will be folks under the screens to my right and my left that would love to pray with you. And if you want to help support us financially, we don't pass a plate or anything like that, but there are boxes on the walls in the back, and we would love your support. Easter's coming, like I said. We need a bunch of help because we're doing a bunch of services. We're doing 5, and that's too many. and we need a lot of people. So if you would like to help in any way, go out to the tables in the back and sign up, and they'll get you all suited up there. Men's Retreat's also coming up. It's a super wonderful experience, so if you would like to sign up for that, Garage, Info Booth are the best places to do that. Thank you guys all for being here. We will see you next weekend. Grace and peace be with you.
In your love, I'm complete. There's nothing like living with you. This life you created, I choose. See the sun now bursting through the clouds, black and white, turn to color all around. All is new in the Savior I have found. This is living now. This is living now. You take me higher than I've been before. It's your perfect love that sees me soar. God, your freedom is an open door. You are everything I want and more.
Maybe I ain't really know what living is. Is it love? If it was, am I living it? Do I live in it? So astounding. Love is an ocean, you can drown me. The sweet embrace, the lovely taste, I taste and see. I'm under grace, the place to be. It means I'll never need an umbrella. I'm cool in the cold, in the hot weather. Whether or never I ever understand, I'm a man in the hands of great plans. I stand with faith there in a life I never known to touch. And still I saw my clutch, but I'm like, what's the dream of? What's the hope in? What's the doubt for?